I don't want to say I told you so, but we now have triplicate 1-of-1s within Bowman Chrome 2023. Yes, that means we have 3 identical superfractors now out there in the wild. We previously spoke about duplicates. We now have triplicates. This one is pretty wild, and there is a lot to unpack here. Now, this was shared with me on Twitter via Orban35, who tagged me in Mario Alejandro's post, and it basically indicates that Juan Benjamin has triple superfractors out there. Now, this was first shared by Bowman 1-of-1. I believe he tracks 1-of-1s as part of his account, and essentially noticed that there was a third one that popped up. Now, the first 2 that were hit were via Mitch's Box Breaks and then Hobby House, Backyard Breaks' best mate. But then in recent days, or maybe even recent hours, this one was hit with kosher cards. So this is the third one, basically now 3 out there. And it's interesting because like we spoke about in the original video with the duplicates, right? It makes sense for there to be multiple out there just by the nature of how the product is produced. I mentioned in my original video that it was very much likely that a whole sheet was accidentally put into production. And that's how we sort of saw so many out there, so many end up into the release itself. It would be very odd to only see 1 or maybe 2, right? And to give some further context, the way these manufacturers work is they'll often have duplicates on hand for replacements, i.e. if one of these superfractors came damaged in the pack, you call Topps, you complain, they basically give you a replacement one after you mail your one back in, which is why they basically produce 2 of them. But given the case you've now got 3 for Juan Benjamin, it's a very interesting situation. In my opinion, the same sort of thing has probably happened here, where maybe instead of 1 whole uncut sheet of superfractors going into production, we now have 2 or possibly 3, which is why you're going to see triplicates or quad identical cards showing up. I'm not sure if there's a quadlicate is the word. I'm not sure if that's the word, but could that also be happening here? Now, some people will say that maybe Juan Benjamin is on the uncut sheet twice, right? If you look at the full sheet of superfractors, maybe Juan Benjamin is at the start and then also at the very end of the sheet. Now, if that was the case, you'd like to think that Topps would have mentioned this when they announced their buyback program. So for those of you that are unaware, their buyback program is something they put in place to make sure that they maintained the integrity of the 1-of-1s, i.e. there's now 2 1-of-1s out there for 95 players. They're going to buy 1 back at really high prices to make sure that there's still only 1 out there. So if that point that I just mentioned about 1 basically being on that sheet twice, Topps would have mentioned that when they announced the buyback program, or at least you like to think they would have. They would have said, okay, all these players have 1, but 1, we have 2 because of his position on the sheet, so we're going to buy back 2 of the 3. But they've not done that, which tells me they didn't know they've accidentally made this mistake either. And it also tells me that we're probably going to see a lot more of these things pop up. It doesn't make sense for there to only be 1 within the product. Now, a number of people have commented and they've said they've seen the breaks themselves, so they know that all these cards did in fact come out of packs and they weren't, repacks or anything like that. They are genuine box breaks, which then gives further substance to maybe there being a heck of a lot more out there. Now, if you read some of the comments on Mario's post, you'll see people complaining about loaded boxes and all that sort of stuff. I don't think that's the case in this instance. I just think Topps have, shit the bed, right? They've made another mistake. And what's very concerning about the whole duplicate situation is that they don't know that there's a third one out there. And I hope there's not a whole lot more coming up, right? And it's just very interesting. Now, I'm curious to see whether we're going to see more show up in recent weeks because I'm not sure how the distribution for Topps Chrome works, but or Bowman Chrome, I should say, but maybe, that additional uncut sheet was spread across 2 pieces of distribution, i.e. the boxes that are getting put into production now or being pushed out to the market now are the ones that have the triplicates within them, which is why we've not seen that yet. I'm not sure if that's how it works, but those are the things you need to sort of think through. But it's just very alarming that Topps have made this mistake, right? People will say, well, Fanatics have come in, Fanatics are learning, but yeah, Topps have been around for a long freaking time, right? They're not learning, right? They've been doing this for decades. So the fact that this mistake could be made is very alarming to me, but it's not necessarily alarming when you look at all the issues Topps have made in recent months. But the reason why I think it's, alarming is that this is the sort of stuff that you expect them as a business to be getting right, to be having a strong stranglehold over. This is very amateur behavior from them. And I'm really curious to see whether they're going to come out and give us another statement or update the buyback program. If they're not going to update the buyback program for 1, then they're basically idiots because it defeats the purpose of putting the buyback in the first place. You need to maintain that integrity of that 1-of-1. You need to make sure that this stuff is considered a 1-of-1. Now, very quickly, could this thing be fake? Potentially. I don't think it is based on what I mentioned earlier. People have said they've seen the breaks and they know they're, legitimate breaks and all that sort of stuff. But when you're looking at the prices being paid within this buyback program and how fakes are produced in China and all that sort of stuff, something like that is not necessarily out of the realm of possibility because there's a lot of money to be made. So people want to take that risk, but this looks all very, very genuine. So I'm keen to see if you guys have seen any other triplicates out there, because this is something that we need to flag and try and push a bit harder on, because it's completely unacceptable that Topps, have allowed this to happen not once, but now twice, and maybe don't know that this mistake happened. That's pretty poor form on their part as well. Now, for those of you that saw my video yesterday regarding Justin Gamble, he's given out an apology video, response video that I will talk to in a video in a day or two. There's a few things in there that I want to clarify that he tried to come out and say, were the reasons why he did things. I think his response was quite good. And essentially, in a nutshell, I think the stuff that he's trying to put in place makes sense. I'm all for that sort of thing. Whether he was intentionally trying to scam people or not is irrelevant in my opinion, because he's come out and acknowledged the problem. He's come out and said he needs to fix a few things. And if he can fix those few things, I think it's going to make his product more transparent, which is sort of all you can ask for. But I'm going to unpack that a little bit further in my video. So please stay tuned for that. I think that was it for this one. I just wanted to quickly put that out there because it is, very, very interesting. We've spoken to this a number of times now. I think there's more to come. I think we're going to see triplicates for the same 95 players. Now, I'm happy to be left with egg on my face if that doesn't happen, but I think the odds of it being, happening or not happening, I think is more than likely that it's going to happen, purely because it would be very odd for only one player to have a triple card accidentally put into the product. That doesn't make sense just by the nature of how it's produced. So thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.